Sarah, as a leader, is someone who we've seen kind of develop so brilliantly over the last few years. But most of all, what's happened is that she really pushes her team forward. And you'll see that with her slides today, that not only her managers are generally in everything that we try and do as a wider team, they're incredibly supportive of. But Michael and Rob in particular are given that time to represent Greater Manchester Mental Health. But also, their NHS chefs have been in so many of our chefing competitions. So again, making the time for every level to be involved where they feel comfortable. So I'm incredibly proud that Sarah has said, yes, she will speak today. And she's going to share some of her story. Big welcome, please, for Sarah. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Sarah Foulds. Thank you for the welcome, Phil. I am Head of Facilities at Greater Manchester Mental Health Trust, and I've been with the Trust and the NHS now for just 3 years. I was officially 3 last week. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the journey that I've had with my team and my organisation. So for most of you in the room, you will be aware that we do annual place inspections. And as I joined in September, we were approaching that time of year. The slide that you can see on the screen at the moment talks you through a little bit of the story in terms of where we were then. A couple of patient feedback comments that you can see on there around quality of food not being what we would expect, lacking in cultural diversity, quality, consistency. But alongside that, we also had 53 whole-time equivalent vacancies in the team, and we were subsequently ranked bottom 5 in the mental health trust in England for food that year. So probably 1 month into the role, it was like, how are we going to fix this? How do we turn that around? And for those of you that don't know, our organisation consists of 9 different hospitals that span across Greater Manchester. So from my point of view, it was about the leadership and how could we influence that. And we have a huge reliability on all of the leaders within our catering department. So when I talk about leadership, I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about my wonderful catering team, some in the back row over there that I'm hoping don't heckle me too much. But right through to food production supervisors, chef supervisors, and we want to bring everybody with us on that journey. So to me, leadership in NHS catering is very much about inspiring and guiding our teams to provide high quality, safe food, but ultimately that supports the recovery, dignity and well-being of all of our patients, whether that's mental health or acute. I strongly believe we're all here for the same reasons. And I know from a lot of people that I've met in the room today, we're incredibly passionate about what we do. Whilst there aren't any defined principles of leadership within NHS catering, there's 5 principles that we tend to embed within our organisation. First one is quality first. That's an absolute non-negotiable. It's the foundation of everything that we do in catering. And food isn't just food, it's part of care, it's part of recovery, and ultimately food's medicine. And my team will know that I do hold them to very high standards. I occasionally get an eye roll when I walk into the room, but we do it because we care and we do it because we're there for the right reasons. Secondly, oops, sorry, don't mean to skip my slide, I've gone too far. Secondly, patient-centred focus. So a bit of a mantra that we have in our organisation is very much that if you or a close family member was in mental health crisis and you needed care, would you want your family member to be cared for within our organisation? And if you wouldn't, why wouldn't you? And we can change that. We can change that standard. Food's therapeutic, it's comforting, and it's culturally respectful. People-centred leadership is third. These are not in any priority order, by the way. But for me, we can only deliver outstanding catering if our people feel supported, valued and invested in. People-centred leadership's about open communication. It's about visible leadership and empowering your teams. I know some of my colleagues that have been on this stage earlier have talked about trusting in your teams, and we can guide people, but there has to be an element of trust in them to empower them in their roles and what they do. Safe, reliable systems. So safety and reliability are the absolute backbone of the trust. Patients, staff and visitors need to know that every meal is safe and it's consistent every time. So whether that's HACCP compliance, allergen management, or reliable systems, it's of paramount importance. And I think the reliability is equally important as the safety, because the reliability reduces the stress for both staff and for patients alike. And then innovation and improvement. So we don't stand still. Every challenge is a hurdle, but it's also an opportunity for us to improve. So whether that's embracing new technologies, whether that's looking at the innovative equipment we can have in the kitchens, whether that's digital meal ordering systems, or whether that's sustainable practices, looking at low carbon menus. Innovation really doesn't have to be the big bang. It can be the small changes every day that generally come from our frontline teams. So I think within our team, we do drive a culture of change, of asking the team to be part of that change and bringing them along on that journey. Learning from other trusts and sharing best practice. So again, we've got some colleagues in the room that we've built some really strong relationships with, and we visit them, they visit us, we share best practice and learning. But a culture of continuous improvement and not fear of failure. We learn from failing, we learn from making mistakes, and that's how we grow, that's how we change, it's how we build resilience. So these principles, they're not a poster on the wall. We live by them, they're embedded in our culture, they help us lead, learn and grow. So we've embedded those into the journey that we've had at Greater Manchester Mental Health. And as a mental health organisation, food is a huge part of our service users' journey. It can be the highlight of their day, it can be the element of normality, and something that one of our colleagues touched on earlier this morning, it's one of the very little choices that they get when they're in our care, so it's really important that we allow them that choice. This is actually a quote on screen from the chair of our Service User Forum, who is a huge advocate of our services and has really helped us along this journey in the last few years. And it's something that's really resonates with me. A good meal can offer hope, and hope is a gateway. Hope in food becomes hope in therapy, in relationships, and hope for tomorrow and life. And for me, that's what we're there for, day in, day out, is making sure our service users have that hope for tomorrow and for life. So we have had quite the journey over the last couple of years. The slide that you can see on screen at the moment, the blue line is the journey of our place scores over the last 3 years, our annual place scores, and the orange line is the national average. So you can see in 2022 we were significantly below that line. We then set out on a journey to improve that. So we surpassed the national average the year after in 2023. And in 2024, again, we've further improved on that, and we were actually ranked the #1 mental health trust in England for food, which I am incredibly proud of. And that is a tough journey that my team needs to take a lot of credit for. A fantastic journey. So I'm just going to talk to you briefly about how we did some of that. And there's nothing that I'm going to stand here and tell you today that you probably don't already know. It really is about going back to basics. So we did have challenges around recruitment. As I say, we had 53 vacancies at the time. But for those of you that may or may not know, we were also under quite a lot of national scrutiny as an organisation from CQC visits that year. So it does damage reputation. It does make it difficult to recruit. It does impact staff morale. You're also trying to balance the vacancies with keeping your current staff motivated, protecting them from burnout, everybody that's trying to muck in and really keep things going. So we worked relentlessly with teams, local organisations around a recruitment drive, but we also reviewed our organisational structure, and one of the biggest changes we made through natural turnover was we removed one of our operational catering management roles and we created a very small development team. So we introduced an executive development chef who works very closely with our 2 head chefs in the organisation and is very, very focused on menu development, sustainable menu development, upskilling the team, core skills, and we've found that that's been of a huge benefit to our organisation. Training and development, so we really pride ourselves on investing in our team. We do aim to go above and beyond with those levels of training, but I'm not just talking about your food safety training or your allergen training. I feel like we've all been paid to touch on NHS chef here, but speaking from experience, it's been a fantastic opportunity for our team. So we've now been involved in NHS chef for the last 3 years. I'm very, very proud that we made it as runners-up in the last 2 years. We're going to win it this year, no pressure, Carolina. But some of those initiatives and experiences, I cannot vouch for them enough in terms of the confidence that it gives your teams, the platform that it gives them to develop. It really reignites some passion around catering and trying to change that stigma around hospital food. The same for the Chef's Academy events that we've engaged in with supply chain, chef development exercises with some of the other suppliers that have been in the room today. So it's really about trying to think outside of the box, beyond the bog standard training that we need to comply with. Patient, staff and board engagement, so another huge one for us. We have multiple means of engaging with our patients, whether that's patient empowerment groups, place assessments, bringing them into the kitchen to see how things work, genuinely listening to them and bringing them on that journey with us. We've managed to develop a really tight-knit team of patient assessors over the last few years that are so vocal about the improvements in our food services because they were the ones that stood there 2 years ago and told us how terrible it was. But they're also the ones that take a lot of pride in saying that they were part of that journey and that they've flagged some of these concerns to us. We've actively listened and we've actioned things to put improvements in place. We're also really fortunate from a board perspective that our CFO, who has actually recently left earlier this year, but she was a huge fan of our catering team. She loved a bit of food tasting. Who doesn't like free food? And she also loves a bit of a photograph and social media presence. So it was really helpful, again, in terms of building that platform. But on several occasions, we've also been invited to do food tasting for our board, take them along the food journey with us and really get them to buy in and understand genuinely what the importance of food is in a patient's journey with us. So much so that actually our associate director has now recently been promoted to a director of capital estates and facilities, which is not that common within the NHS, but that's allowed us to have that real voice now on the board and in all the right forums for everything that we do from an estates and a facilities point of view. Menu development and cook fresh, so I've touched on that a little bit in terms of the organisational restructure and the development team that we brought in. So we've done a lot of work around menu development, again engaging in things that are not necessarily just your typical environment. So we engaged in some of the sustainability workshops with Chefs Forum, and we've also been relentless in some of our cases, our business cases with the organisation to try to move some of our facilities forward. That is really, really challenging against clinical priorities. So again, as a mental health trust, we were trying to put business cases forward against ligature reduction programmes and seclusion suite refurbishments. So trying to challenge some of those business case priorities is really quite difficult, but we've been persistent. We keep knocking on that door. We keep turning up at that table, and we've been successful this year in securing funding to refurb 3 of our kitchens, one of which is going to be a retail outlet for staff and service users, and the other 2 will enable us to change our last 2 kitchens over to fresh cook. So it has taken a lot of persistence to get us there, but I'm really pleased to say that we are now there, and hopefully when the team haven't burnt out over the next 3 months trying to put all of those projects into place, there'll be real benefit to the staff and service users that we have. Safe improved systems. So again, the team have done a huge amount of work around HACCP, allergen control. We've also implemented a new digital meal ordering system that's allowed us to bring in food waste management. It's allowed us to bring in compliance around food probing. And that's definitely something that we are still looking to embed within the organisation. In a new hospital that we opened last year, we are going to have individual patient televisions in that hospital to enable the service users to actively engage in their own meal ordering in the comfort of their own bedrooms. The food and drink strategy and the NHS standards. So I think for me, as somebody new to the NHS at the beginning of this journey, they were a real foundation, really, in terms of understanding where the NHS wanted us to be, where we needed to go. My team know I love an action tracker. So we did have a couple of action trackers that followed these, and that's allowed us to monitor the progress and the journey that we've made towards that compliance. But linked to that, as most of you in the room will know, was the development of food and drink strategies. And again, that's played quite a pivotal moment for us in terms of really getting the services known within the organisation, because not only is it a strategy that we can work from in terms of implementing it, it's a way of promoting our services, it's a way of shouting about what we've done well, it's a way of sharing what we want to do next. Sustainability and social value. So I do think, if I'm really honest, we're not a trendsetter in this area. We have gone back to basics in a lot of ways, and there's still a lot that we can do when it comes to the sustainability arena. We have progressed with things around management of food waste, removing single-use plastics, and looking for less use of disposables. But in terms of a social value piece, one of our ambitions this year is to engage our service users in our services so that they can gain some employability skills through apprenticeships, and also to look at doing some of our grow your own in terms of fruit and vegetables and the full journey that we can bring the service users with us in all of that. And everything there really links into the culture that we've created and the recognition for the team. So I will touch on this in a couple of slides, but I think that's been a big thing for me, and I hope the team feel that. But I do feel we are a really cohesive team now. So even though we do span 9 different hospitals, I think there's been visible leadership from all different levels. You know, we've had our CFO and our director in the kitchen making onion barges and various other things. You know, the leadership really are in there with the team. And I hope that is felt by the team. I do remember coming back from the first Chef of the Year competition that we entered, and my catering manager saying, I think you're officially part of the team now. And it is sometimes some of those things that are outside of the workplace that really do bring you together, and being able to show what that means to the staff and bringing those on that journey with you. So it can't all be about our perception of us doing a good job. So measuring performance is absolutely essential because it turns leadership intent into evidence of impact. It keeps us accountable, it ensures patients receive the best possible care, and it empowers staff and drives innovation. It's a fantastic means of being able to provide assurance not only to your board, but also to external regulators like CQC, EHO, etc. And it matters because it enables us to put patients first. So whether that's using measures through patient experience or the nutritional and clinical outcomes, we can really understand if our food is helping and not hindering patient recovery. It can drive continuous improvement, so it can identify measures to improve, but we can also look at strengths and celebrate the successes, or identify gaps that we need to fix. We can support and develop the workforce, and is it working? So is our people-centred leadership working? Look at your staff turnover, your engagement rates, your training, etc. Over the last 2 to 3 years, we've managed to reduce our staff turnover by almost 6%, which is quite a significant shift in 2 to 3 years. You can also safeguard safety and compliance. So as we all know, catering is a high-risk service. So measurement ensures that food safety, allergen control and reliability are never compromised as part of this journey. And we can also use the measures to deliver value and sustainability. So some of the ones that you see on there under financial and operational efficiency and sustainability and social value allow us to measure costs, food waste and carbon footprint, which helps us to do more with less. As we know, like any other service in the NHS, it absolutely doesn't come without challenges. But each of these have given us the chance to learn, adapt and grow stronger as a team. Financial pressures have pushed us to innovate, collaborate and find new ways of working. Challenges around hospital food stigmas and trying to encourage clinical teams to buy into the journey have strengthened teamwork, creativity and people-centred leadership. Our challenges don't define us, but our response to them does, and each one's shaped our service into something stronger and more sustainable. But leadership isn't just about tackling the challenges, it's also about recognising and valuing the achievements. So from a quality first perspective, I couldn't be prouder of the fact that last year we were ranked the #1 trust in England for food, mental health trust, sorry, just to be clear. People-centred leadership, so again, for me, my passion is people and bringing people along on that journey with me. And we've got several colleagues, some of which are in the room today, that have successfully secured promotions through their own hard work, commitment, and coming with us on the journey that we've experienced over the last couple of years, whilst others are progressing through apprenticeships. I think it's important to recognise the team. These successes that I'm talking about, the ones that you can see on screen, they're not mine, they're ours. And it belongs to every member of my team that goes above and beyond, day in, day out. I can't thank you enough, and I'm really proud of you, so thank you. The awards and recognitions that you can see on the screen speak for themselves. Very, very proud of the accolades that the team have been successful with. Another means of celebrating success is working with the patients around menu redesign for the patients and receiving fantastic feedback. So these were some of the feedback that we received on the back of the annual place last year, which I think you'll agree are considerably different to those that you saw at the beginning of the presentation. We've faced challenges, we've learned, and most importantly, we've succeeded together. And that gives us every reason to look forward with confidence. Today, we've explored what leadership means in NHS catering, so that's putting quality first, it's leading with heart, being patient-centred, building safe, reliable systems, and never standing still with innovation. It really isn't just about putting a meal on a plate. It's about dignity and recovery and hope for our service users. Food's a part of care, and leadership's what ensures it makes a difference every single day. The question that I'd like everyone to think about and take away today, though, is how can we work better together and not in silo? We're facing the same challenges, we have the same standards to work towards, and how do we work together to raise the bar, lighten the load a little bit, and do that together as a team? Leadership matters because people matter. If we keep people, that's patients and staff, at the heart of what we do, success will follow. Thank you for your time.